of supporting tissues in young and old plants? What are the roles of various supporting structures and tissues that these plants have? List down the functions of the exo and endoskeletons. And of course, we have the third type of skeleton called hydrostatic skeletons. Be able to describe, sorry. I think there's a challenge somewhere. So we'll be able to describe locomotion in a finned fish, identify the bones of the axial and appendicular skeleton. When we'll be talking about the bones of the axial and the appendicular skeleton, we mean the axial means the bones of the skull, the cervical vertebra, the bones of your vertebral column, and the rib bones, yeah, plus the sternum. When we're talking about the appendicular skeleton, we're talking about the bones of the limbs, where we talk about the pectoral, the bones that are your arms and your legs, and the parts where they're attached to. We describe the structure and function of different types of joints in mammals and explain how muscles bring about movement. So we talk about different types of joints. We have movable and movable fixed joints. Talk about the different types of muscles. We have smooth muscles. Talk about skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles. Be able to distinguish the different types of muscles and their locations and their functions. So that is a brief overview of what we're going to learn in this topic. And I want to take some time and remind you of some aspects we learned in Form 1. When we introduced biology in Form 1, we talked about movement as a characteristic of living things. We said that living organisms have the ability to move. And movement can involve a whole organism, where there is a total displacement of an organism, which we call locomotion, or a partial movement of parts of an organism. And this can be exhibited by both plants and animals. And so for movement to take place, these organisms must have the ability to bear their weight and maintain their body shape. And that ability of every living organism to bear its weight and maintain its shape is called support. So support simply involves holding body parts in their correct position and allowing for movement of these parts in an organism. And so we have already had a definition on the same. And in this topic, we'll talk about how support is enhanced in plants, and at the same time, how this support is enhanced in animals, and how support enables organisms to survive in the environment and also be able to move about. Now, in plants, movement is enhanced by hormones. In one of the topics in Form 4, we learn about response and coordination. And one of the important hormones that is involved in movement in plants is called the auxins. And an example of the auxin that you learned about the topic growth and development is called indolacetic acid. And so plants have some growth, they're called growth curvatures, growth movements. They don't move wholly, they move part of their bodies, and we'll understand the importance of this. In animals, most of them will change in position, they will locomote, they will move wholly, and we'll talk about the importance of these processes in animals. Now, why do plants move? Why do plants move? And we have noted that plants don't move wholly, they move partially. That they move in different ways, as we talked about. We talk about swaying by wind, We talked about, I know you have talked about before, by a growing of their roots. And why are these things necessary? Why is movement necessary in plants? Movement enables plants to adjust to the environment. For example, when you talk about reproduction, you say that fertilization to take place, the pollen tube has to grow so that the pollen grains, the male nuclei are able to fertilize the egg cell and the polar nuclei in the embryo sac. And so that one will bring about double fertilization in plants. But for this to take place, there must be growth of the pollen tube. Now, that growth of the pollen tube enables fertilization to take place and therefore enhancing survival of the plant. It enables plants to obtain resources from the environment, like light. Plants move in different ways. We say that it is partial movement. For example, in primary, for some of you, you grew plants close to windows, and you realized that these plants will start growing in the direction of light. They're growing the direction of light so that they're able to maximize on the light from the environment. Roots of plants will grow deep in the soil so that the plants are able to acquire water from the soil and also nutrients. There's a topic still from focal response and coordination where you learn about tropic and elastic responses. You will learn that tropic responses are growth curvatures to a given, because of a given stimulus that is coming from a single direction. That, for example, if light comes from a single direction, a plant will grow in the direction of that light to be able to get light from it. And so movement in plants enables them to get resources from the environment. It can be light when the shoots grow towards light. It can be water when roots grow deep into the soil to get water, and also nutrients from the soil. Then it enables movement enables plants to escape harmful stimuli like high temperature, and then it enables plants to get rid and to get anchorage in the soil. When roots grow deep in the soil, they're able to support the plant by anchoring it well in the soil. That's the importance of movement in plants. But for movement to take place, the plants have to be adequately supported. So why is support necessary in plants? One of the and holding leaves in a suitable position exposes them to receive maximum light for photosynthesis. I hope, let me just come back and pause and see or get a feedback if you guys are able to get me. Are you guys able to get me, or I'm talking to myself?
We're getting.
We're getting.
We're getting yourself.
We're getting.
We are in support, and I have mentioned before that when we're talking about support and movement, we're talking about in this talk we'll talk about it in plants and animals. And I have highlighted earlier the reason as to why plants need to move, and I've stated clearly that plants don't move, or they don't locomote, they move partially by growth curvatures, which are called tropic responses. And through they have nastic movements, and we talk about nastic movements. A stimulus doesn't come from a specific direction; it can come from all directions. So we've talked about the importance, and we've highlighted a couple of them. And I was in the reason as to why support is necessary in plants. And one of them, we say that it holds the leaves. and exposes them to receive maximum light for photosynthesis, because we know that plants, green plants, make their own food through photosynthesis, and they use the stopped sharing my screen. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. I was saying, sorry for that. I don't know the point where I had stopped sharing, but I hope we are okay here. So I am saying that we have various agents of pollination. Of course, we have insects and we have wind. But for these agents to work effectively, the flowers, for example, for insects, we say that insect pollinated flowers have brightly colored petals. So they have to be properly supported and exposed to an environment where they can be able to attract these insects. And they should be in a way that these insects will get into the flowers and carry out pollination. The same way to wind pollinated flowers, they have to be exposed in a way that wind is able to carry these pollen grains to this to another flower of the same species for pollination to take place, enhancing fertility, and thus the pollen grains, the pollen tube is able to grow, deliver the pollen grains to the male nuclei to the embryo sac for fertilization to take. Then another one is to expose fruits and seeds to suitable agents of dispersal, and we know this. For those who like fruits, you're able to see fruits, those mango fruits, those lemon fruits, those pineapple, those which other fruits do you guys love? Whichever fruits that you love eating, you're able to see them because they have been exposed by various support structures for various plants like avocados. Another reason as to why plants need support is to resist breakages due to their own weight, because plants they have their own weight, and weight of the various organs that they bear, like the fruits, and also the weight of other organisms that they support. We have, like, for example, in school, you have monkeys, so many monkeys that reside on the trees around. So for them to avoid breaking because of the weight of those organisms, then we need a concrete support structure by plants. So that is all about the reasons as to why plants need support. Animals, on the other side, also need a support structure. Why do animals need a support structure? Number one is for attaching muscles and other organs that they have. We have various types of muscles, as we talked about before. We will that's the last bit, this topic. We have the skeletal muscles. We have the smooth muscles that you find lining visceral, the inner side of the visceral organs. And then we have the cardiac muscles that we find in the heart. So for these muscles to be attached properly in your body and various organs to be properly attached in your body, you need a support structure. We need a support structure to protect delicate organs. For example, in human beings, we have organs like the heart, we have organs like the lungs, we have organs, we have the brain, the eyes, they need protection. And we have the skeleton, for example, in us to offer protection for these organs. To maintain a body shape, we define support as the ability of an organism to pair its weight and maintain their body forms. So for you to have that body shape that you have, whichever shape that you have, it's because you have a definite support structure. If this support structure will not exist, I don't know the shape we will be having. Maybe if you didn't have your the bones, then just imagine of how you will be. You know, instead of run to class or walk to class, maybe we'll be telling you to roll to class because you don't have a definite structure, body structure that will be able to maintain that body shape and enable you move. So another point, another reason why we have support structure as animals is to enhance locomotion, to enable locomotion to take place. And we say that locomotion, the total displacement of an organism changes position from one place to another. And that takes place in most of animals. And why do we need this locomotion as animals? For example, we need it to be able to search for food. I know before this lesson or after this lesson, you will go to the kitchen to get food for yourself, maybe a drink or something. You change positions. For example, you're able to move to the house or somewhere to shelter because you're able to locomote, to get water, to get a mate. And you're able to move from one place to another to get a mate. So that is the essence of a locomotion in animals. Now, sorry, just a minute. So there's a question in the year 1999, a KCSE question that was asking how plants compensate for locomotion, because we have said that plants move partially, parts of their bodies move. Animals, most animals move wholly, though not all of them. Some animals are sessile. And how do plants compensate for lack of movement? So one of the reasons is that they're able to photosynthesize. Because we have said that for animals to locomote, they locomote to look for food. So plants are not able to go out looking for food, but they're able to photosynthesize and make their own food. So that's one of the reasons. Plants have roots, and so they're able to exploit localized absorption of nutrients from the soil. They need not to move around looking for nutrients. They will just absorb the nutrients from the soil. Plants are able to respond to different types of stimuli. Now, a stimulus is a change, and this change can be internal or external. Like, for example, internal stimulus can be you feeling hungry, and you want to respond to it by taking food. You know, in response, response is the ability of an organism to detect and respond to a stimulus effectively or appropriately. So that's not response, but irritability is the ability of an organism to detect a change and respond. You detect that you're hungry, and then you respond by eating food. That's an internal stimulus. An external stimulus can be a change in temperature. You detect that the temperature in the external environment is high, And so you reduce the number of clothes you're wearing, or you go and shelter under a shade. That is an appropriate response. So you detect and respond appropriately. So plants are also able to detect changes in their environment. There has been a lot of drought. So the deciduous plants will respond appropriately by shading their leaves. So most plants are able to respond to stimulus. Like you grew a plant in a dark environment, but at some point, at one point, there's a hole and there is some light that is passing through that hole. A plant will grow in the direction of that hole where light is coming from, so that they're able to maximize on that light. That's a response. When you talk about tropic responses are growth curvatures in plants in response to a given stimulus that is coming from one direction. It can be light. It can be a given chemical substance. For example, the growth of the pollen tube towards the embryo sac. It is a response to given chemicals produced in the embryo sac, and that one enhances fertilization. So plants are able to respond to stimuli, which are changes in the environment. They have the ability to disperse their fruits and seeds using various mechanisms. And this one we have learned, including some having a salvo-explosive mechanism. Like we talked about dry dehiscent fruits, like the legumes. They can split or dehisce along the two lines of weakness and release their seeds. So that ability to disperse their seeds and fruits is a way in which they compensate for lack of movement. They can, in dispersal, they can be able to, some plants have very, the epicap has a very nice color that is brightly colored. And this one will attract you to go and eat. For example, the guavas. And if you go to the bush to do your thing there, you will leave the seeds there. And then they will sorry, I went off. Is there any part that we feel like we have not got clearly? Any question? Yes, Levins.
I was asking if you can repeat the meaning of tropic responses.
A tropic response is a growth curvature. And this takes place in plants, and it is in response to a stimulus that comes from a single direction. You will learn this in a topic called response and coordination. We have three types of responses. We have tropic, we have tactic, and we have nastic responses. And so I based my example on tropic responses. And just let me just take you briefly through just a bit of it so that you're able to understand. So you're able to understand. So in this slide, I hope you're able to see. Are you seeing coordination in the plants? Some part there,
Yes.
Lewins?
Yes.
The last part,
Yes.
that a question is asked, what's meant by tropic responses? And we said, I've said that there are growth curvatures portrayed by plants in relation to unidirectional stimulus. Unidirectional stimulus is a stimulus that's coming from a single direction. And I gave an example, for example, that plants, if you grow a plant in a dark room and there is light that is coming from one side, that plant will grow in the direction of that light. And I want to believe that when you are talking about growth and development, you talked about various hormones that are responsible for growth in plants. And one of the hormones was auxins. And you said that auxins are produced at the tips of shoots. And some of them are transported the roots to enhance growth. So when these are, for example, when talking about, there's a type of tropic response called phototropism. Just want to, phototropism, I want to open a diagram, this diagram here, that when a light comes from a single direction and it hits a given part of the tip of the shoot, the auxins will migrate to the other side that is darker. So where auxins migrate to, that part will grow faster than the part with less auxins. So the plant will, because it elongates faster than the part that is lit, then the plant will curve towards the direction of light. And this one will enable this plant to maximize on the light, use that light to photosynthesize, and also so that it is able to survive and grow. So Lewins, are we clear now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, welcome. Any question? Any question? Need to answer? Any question? Before we proceed.
Mwalimu, while holding there, just requesting we do a quick roll call. The students will see something on their screen. I request that let them just confirm their class. Let's take a roll call. There's a roll call on the class. Just pick your class, submit. Your class is there. We have 130, 77% done, 80%, and then about 30 more students, 26. Just pick a class and submit. That should take you less than 5 seconds. 159, we are 182, so we have about 30 students. I mean 20 students have not. About 15 students to go. 160. Okay, we're stopping the roll call now. Okay, 164. Muguro, you can't see your screen? Just check on your screen. Check on your screen when you see option A, B, C. Choose your class. Your class is G, pick and then submit.
So Mwalimu, can I proceed?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay. So we have talked about a couple of things. We have defined support. We have defined movement. We have defined locomotion as part of movement, but involving complete or movement of a whole organism. We've talked about the necessity of movement in plants, and we have talked about the necessity of support in plants. We've talked about the necessity, the importance of support in animals, and the importance of locomotion in animals, and we have added how plants compensate for lack of locomotion, as most animals do. And so I want us to talk about mechanical support in plants. And we have two types of plants. We have herbaceous plants and we have woody plants. Now, herbaceous plants are these plants that have weak stems. And because of these weak stems, they need to have a mechanism in which they're able to support themselves. So they're able to expose their leaves to light, to environmental conditions like light for photosynthesis. Now, the herbaceous plant stems are relatively soft and can easily break because they lack wood. Now, these are very common question that how do herbaceous plants attain mechanical support, or how do they get support? The main way in which herbaceous plants are able to support themselves is through turgidity of their cells. And this turgidity comes about when they absorb water by osmosis. Now, these herbaceous plants, in Form 2, when you're talking about transport, you talked about various support tissues, talked about the parenchyma, the collenchyma, and the sclerenchyma. So when we talk about the cells of the parenchyma tissue, these are the cells that are mainly found in herbaceous plants. And we know that these cells are only able to enhance support through turgidity. And so the main way in which herbaceous plants attain support is through the turgidity of their cells when they absorb water by osmosis. That question was tested in 2006 and it was also tested in 2015. Now, these now not all of them, some herbaceous plants will obtain support by use of tendrils. I hope I have an image of a tendril somewhere. Here let me have a new share. So they will obtain sorry, I was thrown out. So some will use thorns, some will use tendrils to attain support. And there's a point that is here that this use stigmotropism to coil around objects. Some will use stigmotropism to coil around supporting plants. You have seen passion fruits. If you have seen passion fruits, all these plants that coil around strong plants, they do that because of a response. We talked about growth responses, the tropic responses. One of them is called thigmotropism. Thigmotropism is response to touch. It's also called haptotropism, to touch. That when a plant part touches another one, the growth hormones called auxins will migrate to the part that is not touched. The part that's not touched grows faster than the one that is in touch with the plant. And that one makes that weak stem to coil around a support structure as thigmotropism. And then it enables that plant to attain support from the strong plant. So there's a question in 206 and 2015 that how is support attained in herbaceous plants? We are asked this question. You answer using the main point that cuts across all the herbaceous plants. That is turgidity of the cells that is attained by absorption of water through osmosis. Now, we say that we have herbaceous plants and we have woody stems. Now, woody stems are stems that are hard. Most of these big trees you see around, and these stems cannot be easily crushed. And support here is attained using various mechanisms that are brought about by use of specialized tissues. And in 206, there was a question that you name 2 tissues in the plants that are thickened with the lignin. And some questions you get them asked that name 2 support tissues in the plants. So this one's more specific. This one was on tissues, support tissues that are thickened with lignin only. And we'll learn about them. So the support tissues in plants, in woody plants, are like the parenchyma. We said that parenchyma in herbaceous plants, we mainly have parenchyma for support in various parts of that plant. Woody plants also have the parenchyma cells, and you'll get most of them in the cortex, because I know you have talked about the internal structure of the stem. So we have the cortex, and we have them mostly in the pith, like when you talk about the stem of dicotyledonous plants. And so remember we said that the parenchyma cells are only able to offer support when they're full. They're used for packaging and storage. They will store water, they will store food. When they are full, then they become turgid, and that turgidity enables them to support the plant. If they lose that water, maybe it's a very long dry period, and the plant is not able to absorb enough water from the soil, it's not able to make enough food, they'll become flaccid. So when they become flaccid, they're not able to offer support. Now that one will lead to wilting of the plant, and the leaves will droop. So parenchyma cells only are able to offer support only when they are turgid. We have the collenchyma tissues. Collenchyma tissues are tissues that are mainly thickened with cellulose at their corners. Around 88% of their structure is cellulose, and they also have 12% pectin that is covered. But if you're asked what is the chemical component of the collenchyma cells, it is mainly it's mainly made up of carbohydrates, which are the polysaccharides, which is cellulose. Cellulose is made from so many glucose molecules that are combined together to form a polysaccharide. So if we ask the building blocks of cellulose, it is glucose. So mainly thickened with the cellulose, and you will get some collenchyma tissues in herbaceous plants. You get a lot of collenchyma in the leaves, because when you examine the cell wall of the leaves, they're made up of cellulose. And remember that cellulose is the main strengthening tissue, the main strengthening polysaccharide in the collenchyma tissue. Then we also have the collenchyma in most young plants, because even the woody plants, when they're young, they mainly obtain support either through turgidity or by the influence of the collenchyma tissues. You have the sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma is the main supporting tissue in woody plants, and the reason is because it is thickened by lignin deposits. So you get a lot of lignin. Lignin is also a polysaccharide, but it is the toughest or the most complex polysaccharide, and it enhances support in woody plants. So they are also strengthened with lignin.
Can you go to the previous slide?
Then now other support structures. We talked about the tendrils before, and I'll not mention them. So if we are asked the support tissues in the plants, we talk about the parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, the xylem, and we also have the tracheids, which have an irregular deposition of lignin, but they also, can also say they're lignified, and then they offer support. So that on that question, I want us to go back to that question, and somebody will answer it after, because we have gone through the tissues. So if you are asked a question to name 2 tissues in plants that are thickened with the lignin, which answer will you give? Somebody can answer that for us. 2 support tissues in plants thickened with lignin. Who can answer that one for us?
Xylem.
Yes?
Xylem and sclerenchyma.
Somebody.
Xylem and sclerenchyma.
Xylem and
Xylem and sclerenchyma. Good. So that is support. We've talked about support in woody plants, and we'll talk about support in herbaceous plants. So these are how tendrils look like. These are various types of xylem vessels. We have those that have an annular thickening, reticular thickening, pitted vessels, spiral. These ones here, the tracheids. So how, if we ask a question, explains or state ways in which support is brought about in a leaf. One of the ways in which support is, because the leaves need to be exposed to the environment. They need to be exposed to maximum sunlight, for example, for photosynthesis. So one of the ways is because they have a midrib, and this midrib is able to hold the leaf away out from the stem of the plant, and that one exposes the leaf to the environment and environmental conditions like light. That light will be trapped so that it can be used for photosynthesis. We have the veins. The veins are lignified, and being that they are lignified, they offer support to the leaf, and they expose the leaf to light for photosynthesis. We have the spongy mesophyll cells, of course, in the leaf, and the spongy mesophyll cells are turgid. They are able to offer support. And when they are flaccid, you know, the leaves will droop because of wilting. And so those are the ways in which support is brought about in a leaf. So these are the spongy mesophyll cells. These are the vascular bundles here. Yeah. So these are sample questions that you may be asked. You can go and add the current ones. You can write this one down. You can try at home. Or maybe you can try to answer them here. Number 1, who can answer question 1 for us? Question 1. Question 1. Somebody saying that they can't get me. Am I audible now? Am I audible now?
Yes.
Who
Yes.
can answer?
Yes.
Who can answer for us question 1? How are xylem vessels adapted for support? For example, I can see 2 hands. What are these? I can see Levins.
Mine is a question. I'm asking, why is it that in the previous question, tracheids, they were not mentioning tracheids? Does it mean tracheids is not part of the answer in that previous question?
It is part of it. It is part of the answer. Part of the answer, because the track is also strengthened by lignin. Okay.
Okay.
Now I wanted an answer for this question here. In Elvin Njeru.
I think the walls are lignified, so they do not collapse, so they offer support to the plant.
Yeah, they have the walls of the xylem vessels are lignified, and so they're able to offer support. Name 2 tissues in plants that provide mechanical support. Somebody, tissues in plants that provide mechanical support. There are things that they are easy, but I want us just to remind ourselves from the song. Who can? Njeru?
Can you say that Collenchyma and the sclerenchyma.
Yeah, we have collenchyma, we have sclerenchyma, we have parenchyma, and the rest. The same question is repeated in three. Name three types of strengthening tissues found in plants. These are just a change of words in the setup of the question. I think you can see that. What makes young herbaceous plants remain upright? Somebody? What makes young herbaceous plants remain upright?
Rigidity.
Rigidity of the plants. Raymond?
Rigidity.
Besides rigidity, these are 2 marks.
The plant takes in water by osmosis and the cells become turgid.
This has become turgid. And we also talked about some of them. Some of them will have other supporting structures. Some will have tendrils, some will have thorns, some will wind around various supporting plants due to thigmotropism. So that is all about support in plants. So before we go to support in animals and talk about the various types of skeletons we have in animals, I'll have to see if there is anybody who can question something on plants. Anybody? Okay, can we say that we are okay with support in plants? Yes. Mutere, Mutere, do you have a question? Mutere, I see a hand up. Now, you guys, I hope before you have heard something about skeletons, and sometimes you have been curious to know about skeletons. I'd like to just get a view of some of you. What have you heard? What do you know about skeletons in animals? Which knowledge do you have about skeletons in animals? Somebody. Anything you may have been, you may be knowing about skeletons. Bonventure Matiko. Mute if you're not answering the question. Okay. Anything that you know about skeletons and support in animals? Yes, Barry.
They give an animal its body shape.
They give an animal its body shape. So you are going back to what we talked about support in animals, and we say that animals need support that they're able to maintain their body shape. Any other thing that you know? When it is a bit weight, that's some knowledge you have. Griffin, Mugambi.
The skeleton is a firm framework. That's why it's able to support the animal and give it its body shape.
I'm not getting you clearly, Griffin.
Pardon?
I have not got your answer.
I've said that the skeleton is firm. It's like a framework. That's why it's able to give the animal its body shape and provide support.
Oh, so you're saying that a skeleton, you know, a skeleton as a framework, and so it's able to offer support. That's according to Griffin. Dennis Crop. Dennis,
can you say that it provides service area for attachment of body muscles?
It provides surface for attachment of muscles. That's a point. Let me see what somebody skeletons protect delicate organs. Okay. So all those are good answers. Now I want us to start, and as we move along, let us think together. If we have a question, ask. You can raise up your hand, interject, and ask. Now, a skeleton is a firm framework. Is a firm framework for support. Is a firm framework for support. And when I asked questions, I discovered that most of you based their answers on the support structure, which is a bony structure that makes up animals like man. But we have three types of skeletons. We have hydrostatic skeletons, we have exoskeletons, and we have endoskeletons. Okay. So I want to believe you guys have seen organisms like the earthworms. Maybe you have seen jellyfish, even on TV. You've seen leeches. You have seen flatworms. These organisms, if you take them to your hand, they don't have a bone structure like yourself, but they have a skeleton that supports them. This skeleton is formed by two membranes, and between these two membranes is a fluid matrix. And this fluid matrix is the one that exerts enough pressure to maintain the shape of this organism and enable it to even move. So such kind of a skeleton that is formed by two membranes that have enclosed a fluid matrix or medium inside them, which exerts enough pressure for them to be able to support or maintain their body shape, is called hydrostatic skeleton. In animals, you will find this hydrostatic skeleton in various parts, but especially in the in your sorry, I think I'm having some network challenge. You'll find hydrostatic skeleton in your spinal cord. I just want to give you an image of your spinal cord. Hope I will get an image here and show you how hydrostatic skeleton is attained. So it's not only found in insects, but in some parts of our bodies, you will find hydrostatic skeleton. For example, I hope you're able to see my screen. Are you able to see my screen? The images are projected here. This is your spinal cord. And I want you to consider at the center of this spinal cord. We have something like a hole in this at the center here. And we have a fluid here called a cerebrospinal fluid. This fluid supplies nutrients to the cells of the spinal cord. But besides that, it enhances support. It's a fluid, it's another support of the spinal cord so that it remains stable. Now that is hydrostatic skeleton. That fluid is caught in between those layers, and it enhances support. But that is part of our bodies. There are organisms that totally depend on hydrostatic skeleton for support. And we have talked about examples of these organisms here. That their body shape entirely depends on hydrostatic skeleton. That is hydrostatic skeleton. Okay. So the second type of skeleton is called an exoskeleton. And exoskeletons are found in arthropods. And examples of arthropods are insects. We have arachnids, we have crustacea, many others. What makes up the exoskeleton? The exoskeleton is made up of chitin. When you talk about exo, we mean external. I mean that the exoskeleton of these organisms is found on the outer part. When we were young, we used to play with grasshoppers. We could catch them and start feeding them on the grass. But if you touch the thorax of these organisms, and even the head especially, and even the abdomen, you realize that they're very hard. If you hit them, if you crush them, you will get some crackling sound. It is because of the exoskeleton that they have. I don't know if you guys played such games. If you used to catch the grasshoppers and start feeding them, but you feel the hardness, that's because they have an external skeleton, the same way you have an internal one. And this is mainly made up of chitin. Chitin is a polysaccharide. Chitin is made up of amino sugars. It's not entirely a protein. It is mainly a carbohydrate made of amino sugars, but it has some protein components inside. It is it is made up. It has the amino group and the carbohydrate group. So we say that chitin is made up of amino sugars, and chitin is secreted by cells of the epidermis below the chitin, below the chitin layer in the insects are cells called epidermal cells. I just want to show you epidermal cells, and they secrete the cuticle that is made up of different layers, and this one makes up the chitin layer. So the epidermal cells are here. Insects also have epidermal cells, and we have different types of epidermal cells. We have the normal epidermal cells that secrete chitin, and we have specialized epidermal cells that secrete various materials. Like some of them secrete hormones. You guys, if you are from the agriculture, you take agriculture, somebody's talking, Jackson in the lenzu, can you mute? Jackson. So if you guys know of bees, these organisms secrete some chemical compounds called pheromones. And the queen bee is the one that mainly secretes the pheromones, and they're able to keep the colony together. So each colony of bees will have a given smell that is produced by the queen bee. And that one maintains them and makes them not to go to another colony. That kind of the pheromone, that kind of substance is produced by the epidermis. Some will produce repellents, some chemicals that you touch some insects and they produce a very bad smell when you produce them. Those are pheromones, and those are repellents, and they are produced by some specialized cells of the epidermis. But our point is not that it's not about the pheromones and the repellents. Our point is that chitin is produced by the epidermal cells, So what are the functions of the exoskeleton? One of the functions of the exoskeleton is to protect internal organs, because for these kinds of organs, for these arthropods, the exoskeleton covers the whole structure of the organism, and so every organ is covered by the exoskeleton, and so they protect those organs from mechanical damage. Number two, an adaptation is that they are waterproof. The exoskeleton is waterproof, and because it's waterproof, it reduces loss of water from the bodies of these organisms. Number three, they provide surface area for muscle attachment. So you will find muscles attached from the inner side of this exoskeleton. And lastly, it is able to support the internal structure of the organism. They're able to give this organism the shape. That's the exoskeleton. Now, there is a very common question. Question is, what is the disadvantage of the exoskeleton? The disadvantage of the exoskeleton. The disadvantage, somebody is complaining that they are not able to see the screen. Most of you able to see the screen? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So one of the disadvantages of the exoskeleton is that it hardens
backbone
when it's exposed to air. and that limits growth. Because I want to believe that when we're talking about growth and development, I want to take you back to growth and development. You talked about role of hormones. Find me the hormones you talked about, and then we link them to the exoskeleton. What are some of the hormones you talked about in Form 3, the last part? Somebody has just joined now. We are doing a support and movement, the last topic in Form 4. So you talk about some hormones and their effect on growth. So I would like you to remind me some of the hormones you talked about and their effect on growth, and especially on the exoskeleton. Somebody?
The esdison hormone, which facilitates molting.
Molting.
Yes.
So we have the exoskeleton hormone or the molting hormone. So they're responsible for molting. Molting is the shading of the exoskeleton. Remember, you said that insects have an intermittent growth. So their curve is intermittent curve. And you know, let me, I just want to take us through something. An intermittent curve is almost like this. It doesn't have straight upward growth lines, because even when an insect is not increasing in size, when the exoskeleton is still intact, cell division is still taking place. It should not be like this. You should never do it like this. You should never do it like this, like the stairs. This upward line should be slanting, because growth is still taking place even when the exoskeleton is good. There is still cell division taking place.
Well, we can't see.
Sorry. Let me
we
share.
can't see the graph that you're drawing.
Let me share. Sorry. Are you able to see now?
Yes.
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 I'm saying that when you're drawing an intermittent curve, because it was there, I think in the last exam,
We can't see
the previous lot.
Screen.
You cannot still be able to see.
Can see.
Then you must be doing a problem. I'm saying let us call the first one A and the second one B. Okay. So the way you should draw it is you should use the A structure, because I'm saying this, it should not be like stairs. Reason is because we're talking about growth. Despite the fact that growth is intermittent in insect, takes place in a stage-wise form, still there's some continuity in growth even before the exoskeleton is shed. There's some continuity of growth. There's cell division taking place. What takes place after the exoskeleton is shed is the expansion of these cells, so that the insects now increase in size. Now, because cell division is still taking place, then to show that growth is still taking place, you draw them in a slanting manner. Okay. So ecdysis takes place at these corners here. Ecdysis. Now we have talked about the ecdyson. That's the molting hormone. Let us go back to our work. The ecdyson hormone. So it's responsible for molting, shedding of the exoskeleton. And after the exoskeleton has been shed and growth takes place again, the exoskeleton again is formed. And again, for increase in size to take place next time, the exoskeleton has to be shed again. And so that limits growth. It limits growth. So that's one of the disadvantages of the exoskeleton, that it has to be shed for growth. And when you talk about this growth, it's increase in size, but cell division is still taking place. The point is, the chitin, when chitin hardens, it limits growth. Now you can be asked another question, and this question can be having a couple of marks, like 10 marks. You describe how the exoskeleton is adapted to its functions. Okay, so you should be able to know. For example, if you ask that question, what are some of the responses that you are likely to give? How the exoskeleton is adapted to its functions. I want to get from you. I want to see hands in the air. No hands. Yes, Pelo.
It is thin at the joints to allow for movement.
Yeah, it is thin at the joints to allow for movement. That's a good answer. Somebody else? Yes, Brian.
It is hard to protect the internal organs.
So it is hard to overprotection the internal organs. Where is a miss here? Yes, Pelo again. So other people are just kuna watu wanakula wana nini hapa. I think it is important. Let me see. It's important that we put our cameras on so that I can be able to see. There are people who may be eating here where we're in class, or they just switched their Zoom on and they went back to sleep. Cheptumo. Andrew, how is the exoskeleton adapted to its functions? Andrew Cheptumo. Andrew. Bethwell. Kimtai. Somebody? Malcolm Washira. Malcolm.
It's waterproof to prevent excessive loss of water from the body tissues.
Waterproof to prevent excessive water loss from the body. It's true. Somebody else? Bethwell, you have unmuted. Mark Soita.
It provides an area for the attachment of internal organs.
So what's the modification there? Because when we're talking about an adaptation question, we're talking about a structure modification function. Does it?
Maybe we can say that it is jointed so as to allow movement.
We talked about that, Mark. It's not about being jointed. So together, it's thin at the joints. Thin at the joints. Together, that one enhances flexibility during movement. So, Pelo, you are unmuted. Do you have an answer? Pelo, Andrew, Cheptuma, and Bonventure. If you have something to say.
Yes.
If you don't,
I think it.
Yes.
It has internal processes for muscle attachment.
Yes. Come up again. No, I'm not getting Pelo rightly, but let us proceed.
I've said it has.
I don't know if I'm not the one getting fellow. So we have talked about chitin being thin at the joints, and that one enhances flexibility during movement. Then we've talked about a hard, chitin is hard, and that one provides protection. Chitin is able to be shed regularly. That one regulates growth in insects. Then in some organisms, the chitin has some kind of pigment that enhances camouflage. You look at some stick insects to enhance camouflage. In the eyes, the chitin is transparent to allow for entry of light so that they're able to see. And many other adaptations, It is light for flight for those insects that fly. In the mouth region, it can be modified to form hard jaws for biting. So there's so many adaptations of the exoskeleton dysfunctions. Just find as many as possible. So I don't want to move to the endoskeleton. Let me just confirm something small as you think about questions, then we come back and see. Okay, we can just proceed because I see that I'm told we have a lot of time. So we go to the endoskeleton. I hope we are okay with the exoskeleton. Are we?
Yes.
Are we okay with the exoskeleton?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any question?
Yes.
Swali? No, Nathan says we can't be able to repeat everything. We'll be able to follow up the rest. Oh, you overslept. That's your problem now, Martin. Now, endoskeleton. Endoskeleton is the internal skeleton. And this one, you'll find it in mammals. You'll find it in vertebrates. Let's talk about vertebrates. And so it consists of bones and cartilages. You know, bones have more calcium deposits. That one makes them harder than cartilages. Functions of the endoskeleton, and we have endoskeleton, so we should understand it better. Though you have never seen, you're not able to see it, but it is covered with the tissues of your bodies. So one of the functions is that it provides surface area for muscle attachment. That your body muscles, various types of muscles that you have, maybe skeletal muscles, they are attached to your endoskeleton. Number two, it protects internal organs from mechanical damage. We have various internal organs. We have the brain, for example, it's covered by the skull. We have the eyes here. We have the heart, for example, the lungs. These organs, they are covered by your internal skeleton. and this one protects or protects them from mechanical damage. You fall down, maybe you injure your skull, but your brain remains intact. You fall down, you break your ribs, but your lungs remain intact. If they were not there, then it's those organs that will face the damage. Manufacture of red blood cells. Where are the red blood cells manufactured? Where are the red blood cells manufactured? Somebody.
Marrow.
Bones. Bone marrow.
What about the white blood cells?
Marrow of long bone.
Yeah, so you have to differentiate. Bone marrow of short bones, like bones of the vertebral column. Bone marrow of the long bones, that's where the white blood cells are manufactured. Okay, so the manufacture of the red blood cells and the white blood cells. Red blood cells in the marrow of the short bones, white blood cells in the marrow of the long bones. Storage of calcium and phosphorus, because they are components that are used to strengthen the bones. So it is stored there. And if by any chance your bones are affected and the levels of phosphorus and calcium go down, you suffer from osteoporosis, and your bones become very light, and they will have some, they'll be very weak, and they can easily break. The structures, for example, the rib cage, are involved in gaseous exchange, and we know because of the attachment of the intercostal muscles, they're able to behave in various ways during inhalation and exhalation, and you know that they can move upwards and outwards, so that the volume of the rib cage increases. That enhances inhalation. They can be able to move downwards and inwards, so that to reduce the pressure, the volume of the thoracic cavity, and increase the pressure, so that person is able to breathe out. Now, when you're talking about the internal skeleton, one of the animals you cannot forget is fish. I know you guys, some of you like fish a lot. Some of you like fish a lot.
Yes.
What is this guy called who? This guy from K.
Olo.
Who? Olo.
Godwin.
Godwin, whichever.
Boy.
Fish, one of the things that you need to learn is the external structure of fish. Okay? And how the structure of the fish enables it to move in water. So I want us to understand a few things. One, I want us to understand the observable features. Look at the organization of the scales. You look at the fins of fish, and how they are structured. And then after looking at the external structure, then we go to and look at the various ways in which the fish moves, various movements that the fish undertakes. And then after that, we'll talk about now how the various parts of the fish adapt it to movement. So I want us to know the external structure and the functions of the various parts, and then the various movements. So what are some of the observable features that adapt the fish to various functions? As you can see, one of the parts of the fish is the caudal fin. Caudal fin. This fin here. This fin here is able to lash sideways, and that one propels the fish forward. It is the most powerful part of the fish when it comes to movement. Depending on the size of the fish, the caudal fin produces some power That's why if you've watched the Nat Geo, you will see the kind of power produced by the whales is different from the power produced by omena. The caudal fin, it's responsible for forward movement in a fish. Balancing in water, those fish moves in water. We have the pelvic fin and the pectoral fin. These are called paired fins. They're paired. Staging upright so that it maintains an upright posture. It is the dorsal fin. The dorsal fin. The caudal fin may also contribute, and the anal fin, but the main one is the dorsal fin. Then for fast movement in water, what the various modifications in the body of the fish, you have the streamlinedness, you can say that, scales overlapping backwards, and a body covered with muscles. That's muscles called myotomes. They're able to contract and relax, enhancing movement. Are we clear with that? I was introducing two observable features of a fish that adapts to movement in water: balancing, staging upright, and fast movement. Are we clear with that, or should I repeat?
Repeat.
I repeat. Let me repeat again. We're talking about fish. Okay. Okay. When you look at this structure of the fish, we have the caudal fin back here. We have the anal fin just behind the anus here. We have the pectoral fins and the pelvic fins, which are paired fins. You find this one here, and then you find the other one on the other side. You find a pelvic fin here, and you find another one on the other side. We have the dorsal fin. We have the anal fin. We have so what are some of the observable features in fish that adapt to forward movement? For forward movement, talk about the caudal fin. It's the one that lashes sideways, and that power it produces is the one that pushes the fish forward. Okay. We have the balancing in fish. Balancing, the fish is able to balance because of the paired fins. Paired fins. We have the pelvic fin, this one here, and then we have the pectoral fin, this one here, balancing. Staging upright, kuisaidia iweze maintain that posture of the fish. We have the dorsal fin, so that it is not able to roll in water. We have the dorsal fin. For the fish to move faster, what features does it have externally? It has a streamlined body to enable it to move. Okay. The body has scales, but the scales overlap backwards. And in addition, on those scales, you will find some mucus layer to reduce friction as it moves in the water. The body is covered with muscles. The muscles are called myotomes, and they contract and relax to enhance movement in fish. So those are the external features that adapt the fish to various kinds of movement it undertakes in water. Okay, are we clear up to that point?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Now,
Function of the anal
a
fin.
fish, eh?
The anal fin.
The anal fin. I'm not getting. Okay. Maybe for better understanding, let me see if I can share. Maybe I can share a video, a small video on movement in fish, so that you guys are able to relate what we are learning. Are you able to see how the tail fin is propelling the fish?
Yes.
I want you to see. And that one is the one that makes the fish to be able to move forward. I want you to see. And to maintain that posture, you see, the dorsal fin will be there to make it remain stable, maintain that posture in water, and the streamlinedness enables it to. And you've seen it. You've seen the fish turn. Or when it's moving, it breaks. Are you seeing the way the fin, these pectoral fins and pelvic fins, they enable it to break, turn. And you look at the fins that are close to the head, the pectoral and the pelvic fins. It wants to turn, it wants to break. Okay. So I think that one should be enough. I think that one should be enough. That's about fish. Okay. Then we talk about the various movements exhibited by fish. One of them, one of the things that may happen as the fish moves is yawing. Yawing, as we have seen the previous video, you have seen the head deflecting side to side, and this because of the action of the tail. Okay, I want us to again go back and share anew. I want you to see as we move. That you will find the head moving lashing side to side. I don't know where that video went to. It disappeared. As the tail propels, the head is like to deflect from side to side. So that is, you see that? That is called yawing. That is called yawing. The deflection of the head as a result of the propulsive action of the tail. And this one is prevented by the dorsal and the ventral fins. Okay, so then we have pitching. Pitching is the tendency of the head of the fish to plunge downwards as the fish moves in water. Okay, so the fish has that likelihood to move its head downwards as it moves in water, and that one is prevented by the paired fins. That's the pectoral the pelvic fins, so that it does not plunge downwards. Okay. Rolling, the likelihood of a fish to rotate around this longitudinal axis. There's a rolling, the normal rolling that you know, and that one is prevented by the fact that it has the dorsal fin and also the caudal fin. Okay, so it prevents it from rolling in water. Those are the special movements in water. Fish can also break. When it's moving at high, it can break and turn. So that one is controlled again by the paired fins, the pectoral and the pelvic fins. Please note these things. These are very critical things. So breaking and changing direction, though they are controlled by the paired fins, the pectoral and the pelvic fins. So So I want you, if you have any question on this, yawing, pitching, rolling, I want you to ask. Braking, changing direction. In these three, know the definition and the fins that control them. About braking and changing direction, know the fins, but those are the paired fins. Okay, so the paired fins that control that. I want somebody to ask something they have not understood on the same, on movements in fish, before I go to adaptations.
So can you please explain pitching again?
Pitching. Can I go back to the video that I projected before?
Yes.
Think
Yes.
should. Okay.
Yes.
Let me share this. I want you to see that as the fish move, you realize that they're likely to, there's a likelihood of moving downwards. Are you seeing that? Ikimove kidogo unaona kama inataka kwenda chini. So that tendency of the fish moving, the head of the fish moving downwards as it moves is what is called pitching. So I want to go back here. There's is going downward. That's what is called pitching. So the tendency of the head of the fish to point downwards when the fish is moving is called pitching. So are we clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Another question there. These are crucial. These are crucial part. So I would like anybody who does not seem to understand. Levins and Andrew. Start with Levins and then Andrew.
I'm asking, have you just said that the paired wings control the rolling and the pitching?
Control pitching, the paired fins, not rolling. Rolling is by the caudal fin, controlled by the caudal fin.
Okay.
You see, I want you to go and observe fish as it moves. You see, the paired fins are found almost close to the head, and then the fish can I use a very normal word, open when it's almost pitching, moving downwards, it opens them up and it prevents the head from going down. So it's controlled by the paired fins, the pelvic and the pectoral fins. Andrew Cheptumo. Andrew, your hand is up. Okay, so I hope we are there. We have understood. Now, the most common question here, you can be asked to describe how a fin fish or tilapia moves in water, and be told to describe that. And that one I want to give you an assignment. Or you can be asked to describe, and this is very common, adaptations of the fin fish to movement in water. Adaptation. Can you go and try to write this essay and see if we can score 20 marks? Adaptations of a finned fish to movement in water. You can send it to my email. I think I'll give my email so that I can be able to see what you have done. Okay, these are very common one. Adaptation of the finned fish to movement in water. So before you go there, because that one I'll not touch it, that one will be an assignment. We have the pelvic and the pectoral fins. I want to give a summary that they're used to change direction. They're used to change the level of fish in water, moving either upward or downwards. They enhance braking in fish, maintaining balance in water, and also prevents pitching, that tendency of the head of the fish to point downwards. The dorsal and the ventral fins, they prevent yawing. So yawing. of the fish. And then there's a swim bladder that the fish has. When it deflates, it moves to the lower surface of the water. So go and do the AC on adaptation of the fish to movement in water. And then we proceed from there next time. You can also go and look at KCSE 2011, sorry, practical. They were given a question on fish. Look at the various questions there and see if you can be able to answer correctly. So, and then go and try to understand how to calculate the tail power in fish. And from there, we'll now start with support and movement in mammals. Otherwise, that's musome. Sawa.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mwalim. Nashukuru sana. The rest of the students, I think it's time now to have a break. You can go and have a cup of tea, stretch yourself for the next geography, history, and theory. It starts at 11:15. Thank you, boys, for behaving well. That's a message from the class principal. Thank you. Continue behaving well.
Thank you, Mwalimu.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mwalimu.
Thank you.
Mwalimu, thank you very much.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Asante sana.
Asante. Mungu akubariki.